good evening, this is Hound Dog Steve coming to you on the 29th of April. And just how many times can Emmanuel Macron hang himself by his own petard? God only knows. Anyway, that is going to be the topic tonight. And a very warm welcome to all of you who are returning this evening, and also a great shout out to any new viewers. If you enjoy this video, please comment, like and subscribe below. And it's great to have you along for the conversation. So Emmanuel Macron, what on earth is this man doing? He seems to have been able to get involved in three major situations in his presidency. The first is the Yellow, and he's managed to single the Yellow out as thugs, racists, homophobes, everything that you can think of, and really hasn't done much more other than had some round table meetings which really were very, very limited in scope, but intended to find out what the French people wanted. And of course, what do they want? They want higher wages and more services and no more taxation put on them. Macron has given some crumbs to the Yellow protesters in the form of tax reform, and some of the carbon tax, I believe, was cut, but then he slaps a 10% tax on all food produced and sold in France just to help things along. So this is not really going very well at all. Now, the second hornet's nest that he managed to kick over is with the Muslims. And he has stated that the Muslims are trying to rejoin state and church together. And this is in contradiction with the 1904 French law that separated those two things. And that they are using secularism to make way in the state, to secede within France and have an Islamic state in France with Sharia law. And of course this has inflamed the imams and the clerics throughout France, who said that it is Islamophobic, of course, and it smears their religion and casts them in a bad light, and so on and so forth. So this is really going to rile things up. I wouldn't be surprised if you start seeing Muslim protests on the street. Now, is this to counteract the Yellow Vests? Is this to set two groups against each other as a kind of distraction? Because I don't see Muslims and Yellow Vests as natural allies under these circumstances, and it would certainly give Macron good reason to bring in the strong arm stuff and really lay down the law with the army, maybe even call a state of emergency and go under rule of law. Who knows what could come out of this, but I know that Europe is very, very, very concerned now with the Yellow Vest movement, with the populist movement, because it's gaining strength by leaps and bounds. And to cap it all off, there was a story leaked that the French have been selling arms to Saudi Arabia, which have been used to kill people in Yemen, which is basically a slaughter taking place. It's almost a genocide taking place in Yemen by the Saudis. And, to have the French supporting this by selling them arms, like Canada did, and of course we know those arms are going to the Yemeni front, is just unconscionable. What I think it does for us here is it really gives you an insight into the kind of people that we're dealing with. This is your elitist, this is your typical elitist representative. And I think Macron is turning out to be a bit of a loose cannon, but the way he's behaving is showing you how these people will ultimately behave. This is the world they want us to live in, where they're totally in charge, they control the police, they control the armed forces, and any complaint will not be tolerated and will be shut down with force, and even provoke another group within the same society. And I think that's quite possibly what this is. This is provoking the Muslims to get onto the streets because they know that they're going to clash with the Yellow Vests. And so as we've seen before, there will be, provocateurs, state provocateurs, who will run into the Muslims or into the Yellow Vests and try and provoke that trouble to start taking place. How all this turns out, we will have to wait and see, but let's just go to these articles that I found, and then I'll come back and do a quick wrap-up. Okie dokie, here we go. This from Telesur. President Macron's promises did not halt Yellow Vest protests. Citizens accuse the French government of allowing large tax exemptions for the rich while offering the crumbs to working classes. France's Yellow Vest staged their 24th weekend protest in the main cities of France Saturday, demanding real changes in the economic policy of President Emmanuel Macron, who announced Thursday a set of emergency measures that did not calm the French population. In Paris, the country's capital, the largest demonstration was convened by the General Confederation of Labour, CGT, with the support of left-wing parties such as Unsubmissive France, LFI, and the French Communist Party, PCF. Several thousand people, a part of them wearing the CGT red vest, paraded peacefully between the Montparnasse train station and the Italy Square. LFI leaders Jean-Luc Mélenchon and Priscilla Ludowski were also present. Nevertheless, Paris authorities, who banned demonstrations near the Champs-Élysées and the Notre Dame Cathedral, allowed the police to repress citizens in that area. The discontent among the protesters burnt barricades near the Eiffel Tower. Yellow vests in Paris are complaining that the news outlets are biased against their movement. Political Islam wants to secede from France, Macron. French President Emmanuel Macron vowed an intractable fight against political Islam, which he said seeks secession from the French Republic. His comments left many puzzled about his goals. After delivering a speech addressing numerous social issues tied to France's burgeoning protest movement, the Yellow Vests, Macron's press conference took an odd turn when he laid into the French Muslim population. "We are talking about people who, in the name of a religion, pursue a political project," he said. "A political Islam that wants to secede from our republic, against which he asked the government to be intractable." Macron also gave a ringing defence of French secularism and called out communitarianism. "We must not hide ourselves when we talk about secularism. We do not really talk about secularism, we talk about communitarianism that is settled in certain districts of the republic," Macron said, referring to Muslim communities. French citizens gave mixed reactions on social media to the president's remarks, some posing their own questions in response. Okay, this from France 24. France is under pressure to come clean over arms exports in Yemen war. France's lucrative arms export to the Gulf came under renewed scrutiny this week following the release of a classified report showing that the Saudi-led coalition in Yemen has made a much wider use of French arms than officials in Paris acknowledge. On October 3, 2018, a day after journalist Jamal Khashoggi entered the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, never to be seen again, French President Emmanuel Macron received a highly classified intelligence note detailing the position of French-made arms used by a Saudi-led coalition fighting a bloody war in Yemen. The 15-page note by France's DRM military intelligence agency showed that French arms, including tanks and laser-guided missile systems, were sold to Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, are being used in the conflict, and that swathes of Yemen's civilian population live within their range. So here you go, selling arms to probably one of the most corrupt regimes in the world, Saudi Arabia. And so what is Macron doing? Pursuing journalists who expose French complicity in possible Saudi war crimes in Yemen. And there he is. "I'm going to get you, boys." 3 journalists have been summoned for questioning by French police for their role in an explosive report detailing how the Macron government knowingly sold arms to Saudi Arabia and the UAE for use in Yemen. Disclosed co-founders Geoffrey Livolsi and Matthias Destal, as well as Benoit Colombat of Radio France, have been summoned by police for questioning about the revelations contained within the April 15th report published by Disclose, who partnered with Radio France, Mediapart, Art Info and Conbini. The report contained a leaked classified French intelligence report to the President and Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian and Minister of the Armed Forces Florence Parly, detailing the use of French weapons in Yemen during a Defence Council meeting on October 3, 2018. UK slams Saudi beheadings, but arms sales for Riyadh's Yemen war still go on. Yep, that's about it. And yet we see here in the Express, Macron refuses to stop Saudi Arab arms sales after Khashoggi murder. What's the link? France and Germany have promised to find a common position on potential limits to weapons sales after French President Emmanuel Macron clashed with his European allies over their decision to stop selling arms to Riyadh following the murder of Saudi's dissident Jamal Khashoggi. So even against all of the other European countries, Macron still wants to sell arms to Saudi Arabia. You see, the problem I have with this is what Macron is saying is that Europe is a peaceful country and we love peace and we're doing everything that we can to ensure world peace whilst we're selling arms to Saudi Arabia and goodness knows where else. And it's not just France, this is Britain, this is America, this is Germany now, so they're all. And those arms don't just stop. When they get to the Congo or something, they're then resold and resold and resold. Millions and millions and millions and millions of weapons. These are the dangerous weapons. It's not the gun-toting redneck down in the States that's the real issue. Yeah, they have some problems with those kind of people, no doubt about it. But it is the amount of arms in the world from people like Macron that's the problem. They're the ones who are making the darn things. The bombs, the cluster shells, the mines. These people, the country's leaders, the elites, these are the people who are making them, not us. So anybody who's been watching my videos for some time now and has been watching the world and these events unfold, you will now be realizing that the way the government deals with these things around the world is exactly the same. They start to call you down in the press. They call you a racist, fascist, all kinds of horrible names to try and call you into disrepute. And then if you continue on, they start to try and control the protests, tell you where you can and can't protest, send in provocateurs, send in the police and the army after that. This has happened everywhere that you can imagine, whether it's Spain, Portugal, France, Britain, even in America and Canada. We've seen the same kind of things when protests take place. All of a sudden a strong arm gets in, turned on the public. And I don't know about you, but I just don't want to live in that kind of a world. I don't think that it's necessary. I can't understand why everyone that I meet, by and large, is just trying to go along to get along. What is that? This is worldwide, wherever I've been, no matter what country I've lived in, no matter what country I've travelled through, the regular everyday folk like you and I, they don't want to fight, they don't want to wage war, they just want to be able to raise their families and live in peace and earn enough money so that they can have a few extras. That's about it. It's pretty plain and simple. They get along with each other. Look at what these communities do. These smaller communities, it's especially noticeable, but even in the city, go down through your phone book or look up communities and organizations in your village, town or city, and you're going to see literally hundreds of people doing things through volunteerism to make their community shine or be a little bit better or a bit more welcoming or so on and so forth. That's what we do naturally. So where does all this police come from? It's only from up there, okay? And that's what we need to learn. That's what we need to learn, that we are not going to be any better off by allowing these people to continue doing what they're doing. And I think after 50 years behind the wheel, it's time to let someone else have a go. Because to me, it ain't looking that great out there. Everyone's in debt, banks are in debt, pollution everywhere, jobs gone, no hope for kids, high unemployment for the youth. And what, are you kidding me? This is good? This is good for us? I don't think so. When I first came to this country, wow, it was going places. And these leaders for the last 40 odd years have run this country into the ground. They haven't bothered to replace any infrastructure. They haven't done anything. They've only really done things when they absolutely have to. And it's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. And according to recent polls, 80%, 8 out of 10 Canadians agree with me. And this is actually Ipsos did worldwide research, worldwide polling, and it was between 70 and 80% in every country that the people were dissatisfied with what the government were doing for them. They didn't feel that the government cared about their problems. So there you go. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe below. In the meantime, this is Hound Dog Steve wishing you a great evening and a great week coming up, and we'll talk very, very shortly. Okay, see you now. Bye.